I'm so glad we have the opportunity to have a little look at hemming. At hemming. I really wanted to do this last year, but we just kept going and going, and that last episode was getting pretty long. We covered a lot of stuff. But this year, you're going to be weaving, or you're going to have the opportunity, if you do the weave along with us, to weave a lot of towels, narrow things like this, hand towels. We can turn them into bigger towels. You'll see that later on. But you need to know how to hem them. Now, I am not an expert sewer. Far from it. I'm an okay sewer, but I can hem quite nicely. And I just want to talk to you about how to get an even hem, a nice easy hem. We're going to do it by hand stitching first, and then I'm going to do it on the sewing machine. I don't have a fancy schmancy sewing machine. My sewing machine is actually elderly and doesn't have a fancy foot, but I can get some nice hems on it. So I'm going to show you how to do all of that. First of all, I think I'm going to show you on the board when I'm weaving towels how I do it. So I need my little chalk. I'm going to go here. So I weave my first towel. Let's see, it would be down here, right? I weave my first towel like that, nice and straight. I always weave an inch, 1 inch for my hem. So that's my hem. And I often do this in a different color because then I have something to turn on. Just the slightest change of color gives me a nice clean line to do my first pressing on. So I do that, then I weave my towel, weave. And then I have my last inch for hem. And then I throw 2 picks of a heavier thread. So there's my 2 picks of a heavier thread right there. And then right on top of that heavier thread, I start my next towel. So here we go. Here's our next towel. I weave my 1 inch of hem in a different color, weave my towel, weave my hem, however long this is, weave your hem 1 inch, 2 picks of heavier thread, and on I go. So I end up with these towels right on top of each other. When I cut them off the loom, the first thing I do is I take them to the sewing machine and I zigzag. Well, the first thing I do is I do generally. I zigzag here, zigzag, zigzag on either side of those 2 fat picks. Zigzag, this is a zigzag. Same thing up here. And then I cut between these 2 picks, cut, 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 and then I have all these individual towels, cut, cut, cut. There, you just made some towels with me. Then I take them to the ironing board. Well, that's not what I do. I actually wash mine first. But I have a very good friend, Sharon, who doesn't. She does all of hers before she washes them. She actually sews the hem before she washes them. She finds that that works perfectly for her. I have just always washed mine before I hem them. It works fine for me. So, not right, not wrong, different. Once again, everybody's got a different take on these things. You need to find out what works best for you. And all I can do is show you what I do. So, actually, if any of you are ace sewers and you want to post some input into this on the forum, that would be awesome. That gets a dialogue happening on the forum about different ways to do things, because there's so many different ways. Anyway, here's our little towel. You're going to learn how to do this clasp wefting here in a future episode. And here's my color change. So I wove 1 inch, it's maybe a little bit more than 1 inch in fuchsia, and then we went into the actual towel here. So it's so easy for me to fold this over right on that line. That's why I like to do these color changes, because then I have a clean straight line. Have my nice hot iron here, boing, boing, boing. And there we go. We're going to talk in a bit, once I get this demonstration done, we're going to talk in a bit about all kinds of different hems. And I've got a stack of samples over there on the table. I'm just waiting for my iron to heat up. So I chose this piece to sample or to demonstrate on because it has these stripes and I want to keep my stripes all lined up. So I've got my first nice turn. This is going to be the front of the towel. You can see it's going to look nice and clean. And that color change made it so easy. Now I'm going to come in and I basically just fold this down and I put pins in all along the way. I pin every stripe so they don't move. Actually, do that just to hold it. Now, if you don't want to have it quite this deep a hem, you don't have to. You can make it, you could weave 3/4 of an inch, say. It's up to you. All that stuff's up to you. Not right, not wrong. You're going to see all kinds of different hems. Now I'm going to press everything in perfect place. This curled under. Come on. So this guy was a little bit longer than an inch, which is why we have maybe 5/8 of an inch. I'm just waiting for my iron to heat up. I want that hard line that I get from my good steam iron. So I have this on hot, on full steam, there, full steam ahead. There we go. And now I'm going to put a pin in it on every one of these stripes. Now, my friend Sharon, who does such an awesome job hemming her towels, told me about these clips that you can get now. All these newfangled things out there. I guess they're quilting clips, and she says they hold better than pins and they're easier on your sewing machine. But I haven't tried those yet. But they're out there. When I go to the machine now, it's going to be so easy to keep all of these stripes in place, in their place. If I don't do that, and if my stitch length is too tight, then it's going to push this top layer off, and I'm going to get one of those hems. Everybody's seen them where the top layer that you're sewing gets squished off. I'll show you an example once we get in a different position. Anyway. There we go, nicely done. Now I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to demonstrate hand hemming. Now look at this one. This one's way too long. So I'm going to do it without a line. This is far too long. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it half. This is about 1.5 inches. So what I'll do is I want a straight line to mark on. So I'm going to fold that down to this first color change, which is right there, very subtle. There we go. So having lines in your warp really makes it easy because you can get everything lined up. Now I'm going to go back in and do a smaller hem, a more delicate hem. I always like to pin my first and my last, and then I fill it in along the way. Here's my first. Here's my last. Where'd my pin go? I lost my pin. Now I just tuck them down. Press them into place. Lining up those stripes. There's the pin. Voila. Put all my pins in. whether you're going to sew on the machine or sew by hand, this keeps everything in order. All these little things. We could probably do a whole episode on doing hems. But I am going to discuss with you, as I said earlier, I'm going to discuss what happens when we're weaving a twill, and we want to weave a hem that's the same width as our twill, and we want to do it in plain weave. What do we have to do to make that happen? Or if we're weaving double weave, and we have to weave a hem for our double weave pieces, and we weave that all in plain weave, then it makes the fabric so much wider. So we have to have different solutions. We have to be malleable, just like with all technique, and learn new things for different situations. But generally, we want a hem that's the same width as a piece of fabric. So there we go, all nice and tidy. Now I'm going to move my ironing board out of the way and get a chair in, and I'm going to do the hand sewing first, and then the machine sewing second. So you've got some options. All right, we're going to start with some hand hemming here. I'm not going to do the whole towel, but I'm going to get you started, and you'll see how I can stitch, and you don't see the stitches. It's really a beautiful way of stitching. But you have to love hand sewing. The more you do hand sewing, the more you will love it. There's something really magical, peaceful about having a needle in your hand and just doing this repetitive motion. I love it. We sit on ferries a lot. Sitting on the ferry is a great time to get your hand hemming done, or you can hand hem when you're watching TV at night or listening to a podcast. It's a lovely part of the process. However, if you're going to be selling all of your tea towels, it really doesn't pay to hand hem, because you'll never get your time back if that's important to you. So we need to know how to do both for all these different occasions. All right, so I just licked my finger because I'm going to make the knot in my end of my thread. So I have just a simple, plain little needle and thread here, and to put that knot in it, I just do that. Bring my nail down, and presto mundo, I have this tiny little knot at the end. So I'll do that one more time in case you've never done that before. Lick your fingers. You go a wrap around your finger, you twist, and then you pull the knot down. I think of my godmother who taught me that when I was a little girl. Every time I do it, it was like magic. Okay, so here we are. I am going to actually sew this as well, this little bit down here, join my sides, and then I'm going to start stitching across my knee. So I'm going to just anchor this in by going up in here, catching a few threads, and coming out right on the corner. And then I tuck my little knot down inside there, and he gets squished inside, and we never see him again. You never see his little face again. So now I'm going to just pick up stitches on the side, like so. I'm not creating a loop, I'm just stitching. It might be a little too long, so shorten it up. All right, now I've sewed the side down. Now I'm going to pick up and sew all the way along here. So I sort of turn it like this. So I'm looking down this section here. I pinch it like that. Then I pick up just on the inside a thread from the bottom layer and a thread from the top and come out. I go down a bit further, a thread from the bottom, a thread from the top, and I'm coming right out on the crease. That one's done. So thread from the bottom into the top and out. Now you can make your stitches as close together as you want when you're hand hemming, because it's not distorting anything. But when you do it this way, you don't see anything. It's nice and secure. I've hemmed this way for years. and it's invisible, and that's nice. You have to be really good at decorative stitching if you don't do it this way, and I'm not. So you can see we're nice and tight here. There we go. It's lovely, peaceful process stitching. I love to watch good embroiderers. They just sit there and they make it look so easy. I've been so fortunate to see the embroiderers from the Kutch Desert in India. Oh my goodness gracious me. To be able to create what they do with a needle and a thread. So I'll go to the next stripe, and then we'll call it quits, look at the other side, and move on to using a sewing machine. Oops, that stitch is showing a little bit. If you don't want to see that little stitch right there, go back and take it out. But that would mean I'd have to rethread my needle. Threading my needle is the hardest part now. Need one of those little threaders all the time. So there we go. See? Look at that. Nice and strong. And on the other side, we don't see anything at all. It's as if by magic. So that's how I hand hem, and I'm sure there's a bunch of you out there that are better hand hemmers than I am. And that's good. But for those of you who don't feel that you have it under control, this might help you. And you do get faster and faster. See, I can't stop. All of these things. I'm terrible. I start to show somebody something at the loom, and the next thing you know, I'm weaving the whole piece for them. My students are always kicking me out of their space. Get lost, Jane. All right, there we go. Hand hemming, easy peasy, especially if we've pinned it and pressed it really well. Okie doke. All right, here we are with my little Bernina sewing machine, and I just want to show you what we're trying to avoid when we're doing this type of hemming with a machine, especially when you don't have one of those, some of those machines, I forget what they're called. They're the top foot feeds as well as the bottom foot feeds. I don't have one of those, and I'm happy with this lovely old girl. So I've just learned how to control that by doing my pinning and sewing slowly, but sewing slowly is still faster than hand sewing. So what we're trying to avoid with this method, without having this fancy foot that some of you kids have, is this right here. Right here, we started out nice and straight here, and then you're sewing along, sewing along, sewing along, and the top layer is getting pushed out, and then you get to the other side, and look what happened. I have this sticking out, and I don't want that. So we're gonna try, by going slowly, by increasing our stitch length a little bit, to not have that happen. So that's the first thing that I've done, is I've increased my stitch length. Everybody's sewing machine is different, so you've got to figure out your stitch length. But heck, I'm sure you all have a bunch of hand-woven fabrics that you can practice this on, and you practice it and change your stitch lengths until you find out exactly where it is, and then you write that down and say, don't anybody ever touch my stitch length for my tea towels, and mark it on your sewing machine. That's what I do. Anyway, here we go. So here's the other end of that towel, and my pins are all in, and I'm going to start here. Now, let's talk about one more thing before I actually get started. My friend Sharon does all of this little closing up of the end here by hand afterwards. She just starts and stitches down straight. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to do my stitch down the side and then across the whole hem and then back up. But it's not right, it's not wrong. do what you want to do what works best for you, and here we go. So I'm going to put that in there, catch it, and this part I'm just going to go slow and use that. Ta-da, we're done. Turn the corner, lift your foot up, turn the corner, and there's this little notchy thing here on the line of my foot, and that little notchy thing is going to go right along the edge of this perfect line that I pressed into this, which makes it nice and easy. I lost a pin. I need another pin. If you don't have enough pins, you could put some more pins in. You know, if your stripes are too far apart, you need to have pins in. Let's do that. I'm going to just stick some extra pins in. Now, those clips apparently that these kids told me about are super slick, but I don't know. I didn't get any. I probably should have. There. Let's put those pins in. Put extra pins in and just see what happens. So here I go. I'm going to start her, and I'm going slow. Doinky, 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 doinky. My eye is looking at that little notch right there, and I'm lining it up with my hem. So easy. I can just go right over my needles, my pins. I always have just gone right over my pins. And I'm not whipping along because I'm not a super duper fast sewer, but this is a whole lot faster than doing it by hand. And if I go slow, I'm in control. Oh, let's see what's happening over here. I'm going to pull all these out. Did it in white so that we see some nice contrast, so you can see the stitching. It's not bad. Like, I'm going super slow for you guys. Okay, so now I'm going to try and do it the way. Not worrying and fussing so much. We'll see what happens with the needles further apart, the pins further apart. And these are the things I test for all the time. Oh, those pins are fine further apart, or maybe I need more in between, but you just got to do it and see. So here we go. Once you feel more comfortable, you can pick up the speed. I'm coming to the end, so I'm slowing down. Oops, leave the needle in, turn the corner, put her down, and do this last little bit. Voila. There's the back side. Doesn't look too bad. Then I just deal with these guys. You pull that to the top. Tie your little knot. Now, Sharon does this and hides it inside. That's probably a better way to do it. But there you go. Pull you to the top. I pull that bottom thread to the top, pull him out, and tie a knot. Doink, doink. Whoops, my hand's in the way, isn't it? Nip. Nip. All right, so it's good to know how to do this, because you're going to be weaving a lot of towels this year. Beautiful, beautiful towels. Okay, that's done. I just want to talk a little bit more about hemming, and I have some examples here of different scenarios to show you. So when I demonstrated with my ironing first, we were hemming a 2/8 cotton hem The weaving was all 2/8 cotton. The hem was woven in 2/8 cotton. And it's hemmed up beautifully and sewed perfectly because we put our pins in and we kept everything lined up. So that is great. We don't always have to use a thinner thread for our hems, as some people think. But you need to know when to use a thinner thread for your hems. All right? So let's look at a few of these scenarios. Right here is one of the boucle tea towels from episode last year, from our first few episodes last year. And I'm going to just show you that the hem was actually done in boucle. It was boucle for the weft and the warp the whole way through. It's a tiny little delicate hem, just a short little feller, and it's perfect. It was done on the sewing machine where I pinned everything, and you don't even see it because the stitches from the sewing machine get lost in all that boucle. But I didn't use a different size weft. That's the point. I don't have any pushing out on either sides here. Nothing is pushed out on either side. My stripes all line up perfectly. That has only to do with one thing, putting the pins in before you sew it. And it was done on the machine. Let's see, other end is exactly the same. Boucle on boucle. So there you go. In those kits, I always provide a little ball of 4/8 cotton in case people want to have something easier or a little bit thinner than the boucle for the hemming. But clearly you can see from that last piece that we don't have to have that. All right, let's look at something else. Here is a beautiful towel woven by Sharon, my dear friend Sharon Broadley from the Victoria Weavers Guild. Beautiful hemming. It's a twill. It's a multiple shaft twill. This fabric, you can see all these beautiful little twill lines in here. It goes right around the corner to the hem. She did not use a finer thread. She didn't go to plain weave for her hem. You don't have to do your hems in plain weave. You can see here that the whole thing is twill. But Sharon knows that if you pin everything on your stripes and you have a slightly larger stitch length on your sewing machine, you can keep everything in line and absolutely perfect. So here we have same yarn used in the hem as in the body of the towel, and it looks great. So let's look at some more. This one is a twill towel. I don't know who wove this, but I just love this. Someone gave this to me. I'm sorry I don't know who you are, but I love your towel if you're watching. It is 2/8 cotton for the warp and boucle for the weft woven in a twill. You can see the twill diagonal through here. And the hem has been done in plain weave. And the hem has been done in 2/8 cotton. And there's a reason for that. If the twill was woven at a certain ends per inch, it draws into this certain width. Plain weave is a structure that we learned last year when we talked about sets, and we're going to talk about that again in the very, very near future. Plain weave is a structure that pushes out because there's more interlacement in it. So we go from the twill where we go over 2, under 2. We weave the hem in plain weave where we go over 1, under 1, and it pushes the warp apart. So when you're going from a twill body of weaving to a hem in plain weave, we have to reduce the size of the weft. And this weaver did a beautiful job. Her boucle is about twice the weight of the 2/8 cotton that she used for the plain weave. So by reducing the size of the weft for her hem, when she went from twill to plain weave, everything works out beautifully. Nice job. All right. What else do we have here in our pile? Here's another example of that. Here is a placemat that I wove a long time ago. It has a great big, huge, wide, thick hem. You can see how wide this hem is. The warp for this is 4/8 cotton for the warp. I can't remember the ends per inch, but it's in the master set chart. The warp is 4/8 cotton. It's woven in a twill, and the weft is 8/8 cotton. Thick, 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 heavy 8/8 cotton. Makes a great thick placemat that just sits on the table. When I went to weave the hem though, I wanted this big wide hem that turns over. It's hemmed right back to the first stripe here so that I don't have to wash them so often. I can just turn it over. This hem looks good enough to just flip the placemat over. And because this is hemmed right to this line right here, it looks great. You put your knife and your fork on there, or your knife and your fork on there, your plate on it, it looks beautiful as a little frame. So half the washing. But this hem uses 4/8 cotton for the plain weave. So the weft, the body, was woven of a weft of 8/8, and the hem was woven with 4/8, which is half the size. We're going from the twill down to the plain weave, and by reducing the size of the weft where we're going to hem and plain weave, we have a nice perfect straight edge. So all these little things to learn, to think about. One thing I always say to my new weavers is a thin thread always draws in and a fatter thread always pushes out. If you just keep that in your mind, when you need things to stay the same on the selvage, you can pull that out and say, oh gosh, I've changed my structure and look, it's all going out this. It's getting wider and wider on the loom. So if you don't want that to happen, go to a thinner thread. A thinner thread will always pull your warp in. I'm going to show you some great examples of this later on. A fatter thread will always push your warp apart. Good things to remember. All right, that's it for hems.